years you have suffered, shunned by society, seen as an outcast because you are stuck on the sex offender registry. But now you have a chance to get your life back.
If you think it's going to happen automatically, think again. It's just not.
David Slane was among the first attorneys to win the court cases, helping people who are unfairly stuck on the sex offender registry.
Dozens of sex offenders may soon be taken off the sex offender registry. Good evening, I'm Jamie Soretta.
I'm Andrew Spino. That number could soon grow. Fox 25's Mark Taylor explains why court rulings are allowing convicted sex offenders to go free. It's first on Fox tonight. Mark.
It all has to do with a 2007 law that created a new system in the persecution of sex offenders, prosecution that is. That new system put the most dangerous criminals on the sex offender registry for life. But after a court ruling yesterday, some of those same criminals are the ones that may be taken off. This is James Starkey, a level 3 sex offender, convicted of making lewd proposals or acts against a child. He's listed as on the sex offender registry for life, but he may soon be off that list.
They modified the Sex Offender Registration Act in 2007 that created what's called a level system.
Jerry Massey with the Department of Corrections says the act also increased the time sex offenders had to register from 10 years to their lifetime, depending on the level.
If you're level 3, it's required registration for life.
But for some, maybe not anymore. In a court ruling Wednesday, a judge ruled about 60 offenders may be taken off the list because they committed their crimes before 2007, and the previous law of 10 years should apply.
Cannot have what's called an ex post facto law.
David Slane is an attorney on this case. He says it's unconstitutional for a new law to apply to crimes that happened in the past.
They have to follow the law at the time of their case. Whatever that law was, that's what they have to follow.
There are several other cases this year that have upheld this ruling, including one at the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Certain laws prohibit some sex offenders from coming to public areas like parks and schools. But if this ruling stands, they'd be free to come and go as they please. But if the Supreme Court upholds the ruling, all sex offenders who were convicted before 2007 could potentially get off the registry after 10 years, including James Starkey.
And they're going to hire lawyers and they're going to get off the list. That's the reality.
Whatever the courts say or whatever the law says is what we'll have to do or what we need to do.
A judge rules 60 sex offenders no longer have to register. We broke this story, and tonight we've learned this ruling could impact hundreds of others. Eyewitness News 5's Jessica Holloway is live. Jessica?
Well, the judge ruled on this man's case today, Christopher Luster, but about 60 others are benefiting from what this judge decided.
If you live in Oklahoma with kids and family, you may not want to live near a sex offender, but they have rights too.
I was supposed to register for 5 years.
In an Eyewitness News 5 investigation, we found there's a loophole in the law that makes it tough for those who've done the crime and done the time to become vindicated.
I would really like to be off this list. I mean, this affects all your life. I mean, every day. I mean, there's something that this affects.
Today, a district judge handed down a new ruling that could make it nearly impossible to track sex offenders. The case? This man, Christopher Luster. Court documents say he was convicted in Texas in 1992. He pleaded guilty to sexual assault. He was not required to register as a sex offender. He moved to Oklahoma and eventually charged with failing to register. Lawyers are fighting for his rights, and today they won.
You simply can't change the rules in the middle of the game, and that's what they've done.
Luster's lawyer, David Slane, says the order will effectively remove 50 to 60 sex offenders, all with the stroke of a pen. He says everyone who's completed the required 10-year registration is now off the list if they have a case before 1999. He also says the judge ruled that if you're from out of state and you come to Oklahoma, you must register for 10 years from the time you arrive if your case is before 2007.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. We begin here tonight with hundreds of sex offenders who will no longer have to register with the state sex offender registry.
An Oklahoma County judge made the ruling today, telling the state to remove many names immediately. News 9's Dana Hertnicki joins us with tonight's top story. Dana?
Kelly and Amanda, this ruling will affect all sex offenders convicted before 2007. That's when the legislature changed the law, lengthening the amount of time offenders have to remain on the registry. Before, it was 10 years for everyone. Now, the worst offenders have to register for life.
It affects my entire life.
This man has been on the sexual offender registry since 1996 when he was convicted of urinating in public.
Oh, it's time-consuming, it's embarrassing.
When 2007 rolled around, he was supposed to be removed from the registry. But that's when a new law kicked in, putting him back on the list.
That year for Christmas, I got a note saying I got 15 more years.
Wednesday, a district judge said this man and about 60 others will have to be removed from the sex offender registry. The ruling comes after 2 appeals courts ruled it was unconstitutional to apply a punishment after the crime has been convicted.
I think there's literally going to be hundreds of sex offenders that will be able to be removed from the list.
David Slane represents a majority of the offenders in the recent case.
Many of them feel that they've done what the courts ask of them. They've complied with the law of registration for a long time, and they want to have a second chance at life.
Still, while some people won't have a problem with this man no longer registering, violent sexual offenders and pedophiles will also no longer be public record. And that's what concerns parents like Brooke Payton.
I think it's upsetting that myself as a parent won't be fully informed.
Sexual offenders taken off the list will also no longer be restricted from living near a park or school. And all that's something even this man finds a little disconcerting.
We need to keep track of these people.
Now, again, the current guidelines still apply to everyone convicted after 2007.
He's helped hundreds of offenders get their lives back, and he can help you too.
I think many people have been under the impression that because we've won so many of these cases, we've now won almost 200 of these cases, that they're going to be able to benefit from it without the use of a lawyer. They're just simply not going to be able to do that.
To get off the list, you need a court order, which means you must hire a lawyer.
The Department of Corrections is not just going to automatically go back and pluck you off that list. They've made that clear. And in addition to that, Senate Bill 1355 makes it clear that the legislature wants to make you go back before a judge to get off this list.
And Senate Bill 1355, introduced by State Senator David Holt, requires a court order to get off the sex offender registry.
The Fraternal Order of Police is actually who brought this to our attention to begin with. They're the ones who have a very strong interest in seeing this passed.
And Senator Holt promises, even if his bill does not pass now, he will keep bringing it up until it does pass.
I think if it doesn't pass, we'll work with the Fraternal Order of Police and we'll try again next year.
And when that new law goes into effect, you'll lose the opportunity to appear in front of the judges who have been ruling on the side of sex offenders.
Once Senate Bill 1355 passes, they lose the ability to go before the Oklahoma County Courthouse, those judges that have been routinely ruling on these cases and removing people, and that right will be lost. They'll have to petition where they live. That's the same place they were convicted in many instances, and they won't be able to go to the same judges.
Fact is, lawmakers are not pleased with the court ruling on the side of sex offenders. They will crack down more and more, so you must act now before this window of opportunity slams shut forever.
I would say act and act now. Act quickly. Time is of the essence.
Acting quickly means calling David Slane. No other attorney in the entire state of Oklahoma can help you the way he can.
You can take a chance on any lawyer in town, but you ought to go to a lawyer that knows what they're doing, that's experienced, that's won hundreds of these cases. We know what the law is. We know exactly how to get you off this list. You're on this registry many times because you took a chance with the wrong lawyer. Don't make that mistake twice.
Call David Slane right now, 405-319-1800. This really is your last chance to get off the registry. Call 319-1800 and get your life back.